particularly toward Republicans. Joining us now, Republican South Dakota Senator and Minority Whip John Thune. Welcome, Senator. What do you expect to hear from President Biden tonight, or not hear?
Well, I think he's going to try and create his own version of reality where his policies have led to this renaissance in America. But as you guys just pointed out, that's not what the American people are experiencing. And you look at the disaster at the southern border, you look at rampant inflation, you look at the fact that we've gone from energy dominance to energy reliance. You look at what's happening with respect to the national security around the world and the dangerous world that we live in and the way that we're viewed by the world when it comes to America's national security posture. I think he's got a lot of problems, a lot of explaining to do, but I'm sure he'll try and gloss over all that and talk about how great things are, because that's what presidents do at States of the Union. And in this case, at least, I think he's got his work cut out for him, because the American people are not feeling, as you point out from the polls that all of them out there, and you hear it anecdotally too, they aren't experiencing that.
You know, Senator, I got to sit in the chamber with you for a number of years. And listen, the State of the Union night is great. It's a lot of fun, no matter what president's there. And we all watch, you know, whether you're in the chamber or you're watching on TV, people stand up and sit down. And I'm interested, if Joe Biden goes through this probably litany of lies of his successes, which the American people know are false, do you think Democrats are going to stand up and applaud the lie that he's going to make from the rostrum?
Well, as you point out, Sean, you've been in that chamber many times for many speeches, and I think he's going to create an alternative reality. And I do think Democrats are going to stand up and applaud. I mean, this is sort of the ramp up, they say, to his announcement for his reelection bid. And I think he's got to try and paint the rosiest possible picture he can. And I think the echo chamber there will probably, respond favorably to that. But again, it's going to be at complete odds with what the experience of the American people is, who have had to deal with and live with these policies and runaway inflation, which is, food is 18.6% higher today than it was when President Biden took office. And that's where most people experience these things, is in their pocketbook. And the reason that they have turned a thumbs down on his performance is because they certainly aren't seeing any positive impact from his policies. In fact, the opposite is true.
Senator, why did you vote, though, for that omnibus spending bill? Because, again,
Well,
that took the power out of the hands of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy to really negotiate a spending package moving into the new year. And certainly Senator Richard Shelby walked back to Alabama with $660 million in pork.
Well, I mean, I think any of those spending bills end up that way. That's why the process is broken and needs to be fixed, Dagan. It's a process that literally lends itself to that. And it's true when you do appropriation bills individually, but it's even more so when you pile them up and try and do them at the end of the year. I think we try to clear the slate, clear the deck, so to speak, for the House Republicans, because they're going to be dealing with the next budget year. And we also know, as a matter of experience, that when it comes to national security, continuing resolution is a really bad idea. I mean, for a lot of us, that was a national security vote. We did get defense funded at 10% increase over the previous year, and what we're facing in the world today in terms of threats, that was really important to a lot of Senate Republicans. And his request, Biden's request on the non-defense side was, 14%. He got 5.5%. Granted, more than he should have, but any deal was going to be struck in a divided government with Democrats and Republicans. So, but I think it comes down really for a lot of Republicans who voted for it. It was a national security vote.
Senator, tonight, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to give the GOP a response. Good for her. What can we expect to hear from Sarah Huckabee Sanders?
Well, Sean, I mean, we all know her well from her time here serving in the Trump administration, and I knew her way back when I was campaigning in Arkansas with John Bozeman, and she was running his campaigns. She's somebody I think, at least in Republican circles, is well known, but she's known as a tough, articulate spokesperson who grounds her views in policy and principles. And those principles, I think, reflect what not only Republicans around the country feel, but a majority of Americans. I mean, I think she's going to talk about limited but effective government, personal freedom coupled with individual responsibility. I think she'll talk about economic freedom, free markets, and that sort of thing. And I think she'll, touch on things that she's going to be doing in the state of Arkansas, which I think will probably, as time will tell, will be a good model for other states around the country to follow.
Senator Thune, see, Sean was bragging about getting to go to the State of the Union and being in the Capitol Rotunda. If I ever got invited, I wouldn't be able to go. I assume they would make you wear shoes. So, Senator, thank you.
You think that's disqualifying? Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
All
well,
right, sounds good.
Yeah, so I'm sure they let some people in there with no brain. So,
Yeah, point well made. Yeah.
Senator
Well, good to
Thune.
be with you guys. Enjoy watching it.
Enjoy the night.
Good to see you.